Hello, this is the February 2023 session of Monkey's Off-Table Tools. The rec poker theme of the month this month is c-bet sizing, which is an important aspect of Texas Hold'em poker that you need to master or understand. So we're going to cover that this month in the Off-Table Tools group. What we have here is a chart that I made using numbers that I pulled from Range Trainer Pro. In Range Trainer Pro, I used a 40 big blind stack, effective stack size. Across the top, we have the heads of 4 columns, and these columns are each different flops, and they're different flop textures. Like this one here, this first one is the ace of spades, queen of hearts, and seven of hearts. Seven of spades, eight of spades, or 10 of spades, eight of spades, seven of hearts, and so on. And then I covered 2 different basic scenarios. In the green, here and here, I have where the pre-flop raiser is in position. And in yellow, the pre-flop raiser is out of position. So we have early position against big blind, early position against button, cut off against big blind, cut off against button. And the intersections of each of these rows and columns gives the percentages from Range Trainer Pro of each action that you should take. For example, when early position is contemplating a c-bet, flop. When early position is contemplating a c-bet with a flop of the ace of spades, queen of hearts, and seven of hearts, early position against the big blind, he's going to check 2% of the time. He's going to bet 1/4 of the pot 37% of the time. He's going to bet 67% of the pot 49% of the time. He's going to bet pot 13% of the time. Now, it's not the same for each different hand combo that he could have, but let's take a look at this particular situation here. So I'm going to flip windows in my presentation. And this is Range Trainer Pro. What's happened here, you can see from the action so far, is that early position raised, and it folded around to the big blind who called, and now we have a flop of the ace of spades, the queen of hearts, and the seven of hearts. This is a high card flop, two-tone. The big blind already checked, which he would do 100% of the time in this situation. And now here are early positions responses. And you can see that individual hands are a bit different, but you're checking only 1%, 2% of the time. And so, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you don't even have to think about checking on a flop like this from early position. Why is that? Well, this flop with an ace and a queen in it hit early position's range pretty hard. Early position has a big range advantage over the big blind. So we can see the individual recommendations in game theory optimal strategy for the big blind's bet sizes, or I'm sorry, for the early positions bet sizes. So let's take a look at one that's fairly split up. You can notice here that just about every hand in early positions pre-flop opening range is going to have a mixed strategy between a small bet and a big bet. Like, let's have a look at if he had queen jack suited. So I've clicked on queen jack suited here, and Range Trainer Pro breaks up queen jack suited into several different scenarios, and you can see that he's he's betting 25% of the time, a little bit over half the time, and he's betting 60%, 67% of the pot, about uh, a little bit less. So, and he's also doing some pot size bets, but for the most part, he's he's betting like in here. Uh, Hello, Arnold.
Hello.
Well, it's just me and you so far. We'll see if
Oh, there you go.
finds up. I've started to explain already, just for the purpose of recording, but I'll get you caught up here. Basically, what I started with was I started with the chart that I made from four different flop textures, four different flops, and four different scenarios, two of which the pre-flop raiser are going to are in position, and two of them which he's out of position, and we're assuming for every single one of them it's going to be 40 big blind effective stack. So I've started talking about the early position versus big blind. So he's in position with a high card flop, the ace of spades, the queen of hearts, and the seven of hearts. And you can see here that we don't check pretty much not much at all. There is a certain amount of pot size bets, but the vast majority of the time we're going to either bet 25% of the pot or 67% of the pot, with it being weighted somewhat in favor of a 2/3 pot size bet. So, and this chart is in the message that I sent to all the members of Monkeys Off Table Tools as an attachment. So now I'm going to go back over to Range Trainer Pro and make sure I can find all my buttons here. And now you can see where I got those numbers from. In this hand so far, early position opened. Everybody folded up to the big blind who called, and that flop of ace of spades, queen of hearts, seven of hearts came out, and big blind has already checked, which it said that he does 100% of the time. And you can see from the ranges here and the mixed strategies here that all of them are a mixed strategy. So I used queen jack suited as an example. And as you can see here, queen jack suited, we're betting 67% pot roughly half the time and 25% pot roughly half the time. And the same basic idea holds true for almost the entire early position pre-flop opening range. So by all of these strategies being mixed roughly even like this, what do you think that means?
Yeah, probably just means that you're pretty much indifferent there because you pretty much crush. You have a range advantage and that advantage on this board, right, compared to the big
Yeah.
blind. So
Yep.
you can do just about whatever you want here, right? So
Yeah. Pretty much, and they're all roughly the same. They're going to be roughly the same EV. So what I think that one thing takeaway that I believe that we can take from something like this, where you have all mixed strategies and they're all unexploitable, would be that if you're if you've got an opponent that you think is exploitable, you'd lean toward one rather than try to split them with some kind of a coin flip using some kind of a random device like your watch or card colors or whatever. I think that if you've got an opponent that folds too much and you got him, you've got the range advantage on him, I should think that we would bet small to try to get him to stay in the hand when we have a range advantage on him. If you have an opponent who calls too much, you're going to want to bet bigger all the time. So that's the way I read this. Two supercomputers playing against each other, keeping themselves from being exploited by the other supercomputer, are going to play with these frequencies.
Yeah, they're going to randomize it, right? So,
Yep.
whereas
Yeah.
I think for us, we can just bet there.
Yeah, we can
You
bet
bet smaller, you bet a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Fine either way.
Yeah, and if you got an opponent that you can exploit, depending on his tendencies, you can lean one way or the other. But if you don't know, just do what you feel like doing. Especially if we're playing in a tournament and we're not going to sit there and have thousands of hands against this opponent. He's not going to know what our tendencies are. We're not really going to know what his exact strategy is either, but we only need a couple of orbits to see what kind of player he is. We got Kim coming in. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right.
Good.
Let's finish dinner.
Oh, and we got somebody else coming in. John Kroll. Hi, John.
Hello.
Good. Okay, just to get you caught up, we're looking at a situation where we're early position against big blind. An early position has a big blind has checked the flop. So early position has a choice of whether to c bet and how much. We're looking at Range Trainer Pro here, which is basically it's solver outputs. So, and what we can see here is a strategy that is very, very mixed for just about every hand in the early position players pre-flop range, which got called by the big blind. And we got Rob coming in. Hi, Rob.
Howdy.
Just to get you caught up, we're looking at Range Trainer Pro. And it's the early position player against the big blind, and he's deciding if and how much to c bet on a flop of ace of spades, queen of hearts, and seven of hearts. So what we have here is a mixed strategy for almost every hand in the early position player's range. Is very mixed between 25% pot bet and a 67% pot bet, weighted a little bit in favor of the 67% pot bet.
And did you say ace queen?
Yes.
No, I can't
Ace-
tell what they are. It looks like ace.
Yeah,
ace to
it's
me.
pretty tight. Yes, that's the just take my word for it. It's the ace of spades, queen of hearts, and seven of hearts.
Okay.
And we've got any of these holdings here. What I've done here is highlighted the queen and jack suited, and it gave us the mixed strategy for queen and jack suited. And even I can't read these numbers, but you can see by the colors kind of what it's weighted toward. It's almost even between a 67% pot bet and a 25% pot bet. It's just a shade in favor of the 25% pot bet. Just a shade. So essentially, it's pick your poison, or in our case at Rec Poker, it's pick your opponent's poison. So,
But actually, if you look at it, if you add the 100% pot and the 67% pot, you're looking at what, 61%?
yeah,
So 61% of the time you're betting big.
yes,
And I think in most of the, like when we were talking through modern poker theory, this is a type of flop that you would bet the 66% of the pot,
yes,
because it was, always, it was going to be skewed towards a big bet. And to simplify our decisions, make it implementable, we chose two bet sizes. We chose a big bet size and a small bet size.
yep,
So this would fall under that big bet size.
yes. Yep, and as you can see here, the entire range is split between big and small, weighted toward big a little bit. Virtually, checking is negligible. So, and what we were talking about earlier was that you can either use a random device to basically do a coin flip between which bet size you're going to use, or if you have an opponent that's exploitable, then you lean toward one or the other. If you got an opponent that's I think that if you have an opponent that's too likely to fold, he overfolds. We have a range advantage here, so we want to bet small to try to keep him in, right? If you got an opponent that's weighted too heavily toward calling, then we're going to lean toward the big bet because he's going to call. And we got the range advantage. But that's only if we got a pretty good read on that opponent. What do you guys think about that idea?
Sounds logical.
Yeah. So, and with the way these mixed strategies, I think that's a way to look at these mixed strategies. Is it's about exploitation, and which of the choices are you going to make based on your opponent? And for this entire range, we're going to bet based. We're going to base our bet size on our opponent's tendencies. And if we don't know our opponent's tendencies, if we just sat down or he just sat down, then we can kind of go half and half. In a tournament, that's going to be the case a lot, where you haven't sat that long with somebody that you know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think against an unknown, I'm going big all the time.
Yeah, just because
I'd really need to know that this person folds too much to see bets to bet small.
Yep, and because it's almost, if we combine, like you said, Rob, earlier, if we combine the 100% pot and the 67% pot, that's big bet. That's almost twice as often as this small bet. So the default would be the big bet, but we could adjust to a small bet based on what we learn about our opponent.
If you look at what the small bets are, they're like things that have the board locked up, or they're things like kings, pocket
Yes.
kings, aces.
Yep, kings
Right.
and aces are all small bet.
Even queens is mostly small bet. So
Yep.
we've pretty much got the board locked there.
Yep. So, yeah, not so much with kings because there's an ace out there, but it still says to go small.
Well, there's no point in going big.
Yeah. Yeah, for that reason, right? Because we're not. I mean, our kings are in danger of that overcard. With the aces and queens, there's no danger at all. We got a set. So, and one thing that most of you guys missed when I first started the presentation here, I'm going to flip over to another window. This is the chart that I attached to the message I sent out about this meeting.
Yeah, I saw that online today.
Yep.
Yeah.
And these are all 40 big blind effective stacks. The flop textures, the exact flops are 4 different textures. And then the situations are early position against big blind, cutoff against big blind. So green is in position, and then early position and cutoff against the buttons yellow because we're out of position. So I wanted to discuss this chart a little bit. And I don't think we have time to discuss all 16 scenarios the way we just discussed for this ace queen 7 early position against the big blind, but we can kind of see some patterns here, can't we? Like in the yellow, there's a lot more checking than in the green. In the green, with the exception of this flop here, which favors the big blind's range, and we're checking quite often. The rest of these we're not checking as much. And one thing that I found noteworthy here was about these yellows was look how often we're checking out of position in the cutoff versus out of position in early position for all 4 of these flop textures. Why would
Isn't that because our range is like closer to the button's range? We're in the cutoff
Yes,
versus
Yep.
early position.
much less of a range advantage, and we're out of position. So it makes sense to check, and we're even with this flop of ace queen 7, we're checking 70% of the time, which I thought was interesting. And what I think another big takeaway here is in these flop textures is to compare the small and the big bets. In position with this ace queen flop, in early position, it favors the bigger bet. But look at what happened when we're in the cutoff against the big blind. It starts to lean toward the smaller bet. Why would that be? Probably because our
Our
range
range
advantage.
is weaker.
Yeah.
Range is weaker.
Yep. Weaker range
We have
advantage.
We have a bigger range. We have a lot more hands in our range.
Yep. Whereas, like with this ace 7 deuce rainbow, if we're in position, I mean, we're just gonna pretty much just make a small bet every time. There's really not much else to really look at. I mean, we're not going to remember or think about how we're going to do something 8% of the time. So it's pretty much just with this kind of an ace high dry static flop in position, we're just going to go ahead and bet small. And the small bet is good enough because the chances are he didn't hit it and we've got the range advantage. Out of position, I've got an icon floating over the top of what I want to look at here. Out of position, with most of these flops, we're betting small, although it's favoring the big bet a little bit in this paired flop. and we're checking more than we're betting big. But basically, we're still betting with this paired flop. But look how much checking we're doing. Why are we checking so often on the 10-6-6 flop?
Big blind has more sixes and just as many tens in their range.
Yep. Yep. So that's why we check more often, because it didn't hit our range very well. And with this second column here, it actually hit the big blinds range better, which leans us toward a check or a small bet.
What I find interesting is the cutoff versus button that we check so much on that
Yes.
10-6-6 when our ranges both contain tens and sixes.
Yes, that is interesting. Let's go have a look at it.
But we're
Range
pretty much
Trader
we're checking or betting big, one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Let me make sure I got the right one here. Cut off first the button. Yep. So I'm going to change windows again. So I need a second. So here's that scenario in Range Trainer Pro. And if you notice, most of the hands again are mixed, heavily weighted toward checking. But if you look at the lower end here, a lot of our low card hands are checking all the time, but hands that have overcards are betting a lot. Even though we haven't really hit that flop with our overcards, it still has us betting a lot. Why would that be?
Big blind will be three betting a bunch of those higher cards, right? So button versus cutoff. So they shouldn't be in their range. So if you looked at their range,
Yeah, in this one, it's the cutoff against the button.
yeah, but the button's going to be three betting the cutoff with some of these higher, these jacks, king jacks, king tens, queen jacks, right?
Yeah. So he doesn't have them.
I don't think they three bet.
The solver, though,
those
right?
kinds
If you look at the solver,
right. But I think in reality, those hands are
Yeah.
calling a lot more
No, that's
often than
right.
they're three betting.
Yeah, but it's interesting that overcards are betting more. Like, if we have a 10 in our hand, we're doing some betting, but overcards are actually betting more than the hands where we have a 10.
Are those ones with specific suits in them, like with a spade or hearts, suited
Yeah.
hearts?
Yes, let's look at that. Let's look at the Jack 10 suited here. Well, the Jack 10 suited has a very similar split. Although the Jack of Hearts, 10 of Hearts has more of the
Big bet.
whereas you're still big betting a fair amount with the other two suits. But and obviously we can't have the Jack and 10 of spades. So but it's still a split pretty much. So it doesn't care if you got the spade flush draw very much. Well, we can't have the spade flush draw here, but let's say
Look at your other
King
suited
and nine.
aces, like
Yeah.
and their ace queen suited, your ace 7 suited, your ace 8
Yeah.
suited, those things.
Again, it's the same distribution, the same frequencies. We could have ace queen suited here, the nut flush draw, and we're usually checking.
Yeah.
I find that kind of interesting. Why would that be?
Because we don't need to deny equity really here.
Yeah.
It might be in the check raise bucket. Who knows?
Yeah.
We have to have a check raise bucket, right, Rob?
Yep.
Yes, we need to have a bucket for everything, right?
Yeah.
Remember,
Well, for the
some of
most
it-
for the most common situations, we need to have a bucket for. We might not have a check raise bucket from the cutoff to the button, but I think
The
it would
bucket's
be,
empty.
yeah, it could be empty. That bucket could be empty, but I think you would probably have a somewhat polarized range for that,
Yeah.
because you would check some of your bigger hands in anticipation of him betting and then being able to come over the top of him, because he's going to bet with a lot of non-made hands that is going to try to bet you off of whatever you have. So I think a check raise bucket is probably a good thing to have on this type of scenario.
Yeah.
Let's look
It'd
at
be
tens
interesting.
full. Tens full is always checking here. So let's see what happens. Let's check. And now let's have the button's turn now. Let's have him do what he usually does, which is bet small. And we don't know what he had. And now with our tens full, we're still calling. We're check calling tens full.
But we're raising all our sixes except 10-6.
Yeah.
We're raising ace 10. We're raising our kings, queens, and jacks.
Yep.
So
Yep. Ace queen suited, ace and queen of spades. We're not raising. We're just check calling.
our check raising bluffs are coming from things like ace 7 suited, king jack, king 10 suited,
Yeah.
queen 10 suited, queen jack suited. Those are our check raise bluffs, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I'd say so. 'Cause those are bluffs.
So it looks like we have a fairly robust check raise bucket.
Yeah. Yeah, because now we're only check calling 44% of the time. We're actually check folding 32% of the time, but we've got about 24% of the time we're check raising. These sixes we're check raising. With the exception of 10-6, where we're slow playing our full house. So that's kind of interesting. All right, let's go back to the chart again. So overall, when we're sitting there playing poker and the dealer's pointing his hand at us, it's our turn to play. What kind of overall lesson can we take from this? What are some rules of thumb here?
Well, the most obvious one is being more aggressive when you're in position, but that's a
Yep.
no-brainer.
Yep.
Check more in late position versus late position, and check more when you're out of position.
Yep.
It's the old adage: you have range advantage and nut advantage, you bet. You have range
Yep.
advantage and don't have nut, you bet small or check, right?
Yep. Yep. Nut advantage goes for a bigger bet. Range advantage goes for a bet versus a check. Pretty much it. That's this was something that I wasn't aware of until I made this chart yesterday, though, that all of this checking that we're doing, cutoff versus button, I was kind of surprised by that outcome and how much different it is against early versus early position. Are there any other ones that you guys want to talk about? Okay. Well, why don't we do this? I'm going to go back to Range Trainer Pro. And let's put what we've talked about to work. Range Trainer Pro has a training program here. In fact, this is the meat and potatoes of Range Trainer Pro is this trainer. This is the post-flop trainer. Right now we're looking at big blind against early position. And I started this one just to make sure that everything was working. Can you guys see me? Are you guys still there?
Yep. We
Yeah,
can
we
see
can
everything.
see
Yep.
you. Yeah, we can see you. What did we
Okay.
do on this?
We
plot?
got it.
Were you asking us?
No, I've something flashed up in front of me and I'm lost. It
No.
wants me to get more storage and stuff here. Okay, just the full size window flashed up in front of me and made me think that I'm showing you an advertisement. All right. Anyway, enough said on that. So on this turn,
First
we
of
have
all,
our-
in this flop, what did we do on the flop?
okay,
Was
I
this a
can't.
check?
Let's see here.
No, what? Let's ask us all what we would do on this flop.
Yeah. Okay.
It's EP versus big blind, so we're going to bet a lot, right?
Yep.
For the most part. So this is
So it bet 41 to start. So on the bottom there, you answered bet 41.
Yeah.
which was a small bet.
And
Or
then
a
he
big
would have
bet.
checked, and now we're on the turn. So
Bet 41 was the medium bet.
So 60,
Yep.
67% of pot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason for that was because this is sort of connected. It's
Sort of a big blind
sort
board.
of, yeah. And but we've got a set we're obviously, and it's not top sets. And we're not going to be. We need to build a pot here, but we need something that he'll call.
Yeah.
So we don't want to chase him away. So he called, and now this came out, and I don't see why we wouldn't do anything but bet here again. So, what sizing?
I bet 143.
Yeah, we want to get all the chips in.
I don't do those over bets much. As in,
Yeah.
not at all. Oh, they didn't
It-
like that. There's only 3%. They like the 2/3 bet again.
Yeah, it called us correct, but yeah,
But it likes the 2/3 bet.
yep. So now we're on to the next flop here, and we're looking at a middle, fairly connected board, and we've got an under pair to it. We didn't flop a set this time, but basically, like from in the chart, what did it say that we do?
I would think this is a check.
I think you'll be range betting here still to 10-9. So you bet 15 probably here.
Yeah, something small because
You still
We
have
don't-
range advantage, right? So
yeah, we got range advantage, but not nut advantage. So let's see what it says when we bet small. It called us wrong.
let's go. Well, let's go a bit bigger. Check, I guess. See,
Yeah. Okay. And we're on to the next one because when you get one wrong, you don't get to go back. So
It doesn't let you replay it to tell you what the answer should have been.
Yeah, I can see at the bottom what it
Answer's on
should
the
have been.
bottom here. The
Yeah,
last
it shows on the
5-5.
bottom what the answer was. It was check.
Should have bet big or check.
Or bet bigger, yeah. Bet 2/3 or check.
Hmm. And another thing you can do is go back to the history to look over the range. So this was the flop here. And this was our range. And with fives, we're almost always checking. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So on the ones that we hit, we're betting, and we're betting kind of big. And the ones that we don't hit, we're taking it easy, but still, and checking. One thing we're not doing is betting small.
It's interesting that the pocket fives are virtually the most checked of any holding.
Yeah. Yeah, this would not be Chris Jones approved, would it? But you're right. It looks like it's the most checked holding, except maybe King 6 suited.
Yep.
All right, where's my there? Okay. So now we've got a pretty nice holding and a nice flop. So I don't think we're checking here, but how about sizing?
My opinion is to bet small, the 15, to try and get them to call you with an 8 or a 6, although you could bet 41.
Yeah, I think on the king high board, we'll be going 41.
Because we got the nut advantage. We got kings and he doesn't.
Your king too low.
Are we
cards,
betting
right?
the
So,
same
Yep.
here with ace queen as we are with our ace king? Like, if we're betting 41, we have to be betting 41 a lot of the time with a lot of our holdings. So what are we betting with our range here for the most part? That's why I think it's probably a smallish bet. Like, you can't possibly remember which of all the holdings we can have, which ones you bet 15 and which ones you bet 41. So I
Yeah.
just think it's a range bet here. And most of the time it's going to be, we're going to be betting our pocket jacks, our pocket tens. Like, we're going to be betting all our cards and we're going to be betting them low. But I could be wrong. It's like you guys want to bet big because we have the king, but I just
Yeah.
don't think range bets big.
no, I'm just with the king, and you've got the 8-6, right, which falls into that range. You have two cards under 8-6, I think.
Right. So maybe we bet our whole range big here, including ace queen and
Yeah,
jacks. And
I would think
tens.
so, because you're
That makes more sense to me.
just the board itself, right? You got
Yeah.
big, small, or big, medium, small, right? So
Yeah. This is like the suited ace one we saw with early position versus it was I don't think any of these bets are going to be wrong, but we shouldn't be checking much.
We can look at the history after we do this 41. What do you guys say about that?
It's fine, but I think it's mixed.
Yeah. It said that's right. Now it's going to gin up another one for us. Looks like big blind folded because it's ginning up another one. So we can look at history and it was correct, but we can look at the range. Yeah, and they're all mixed between big and small. So the ace king suited was like about half and half, big and small.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I clicked on that and it doesn't matter what suit you got.
Right.
Okay. So pocket kings on this.
They're virtually, did you see that the small bets, we're supposed to the small bet is 45% versus the big bet is 46%. So they're almost exactly even,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's
Mix, half and half.
So
essentially it doesn't matter what you do there. You can bet small or you bet big. It's
Yeah.
pretty much in
Yeah.
what they call indifferent, right?
yeah, it's indifferent. Well, technically it's indifferent even if it's 80-10 or something. But you, in order to maintain the balance of your entire range, that's why you bet the 80-10.
It's just
But-
the EV is so close, right? So
This is in one of those spots where if you have a calling station and you would bet bigger when you hit the king,
Yeah.
and then you'd bet smaller when you didn't hit the king.
Yeah, if you got a nit, you're gonna bet small, hoping that he'll come along.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got an overpair here on a board that didn't hit either of us real well. So what do you
Small
guys
bet.
think? Yeah,
I bet small here with my entire range.
yeah.
Me too.
I think it's going to go a little 41 again, but yeah, I think it'll be close.
I think it'll be much more 15.
What is 41 half pot?
Yeah, 61 is the
It's
pot.
2/3.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it's 15.
He's got 25% or 67% choices. So, yeah. So that's the choices we have.
Oh, so 61 is pot then.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I'd go 15 definitely. Small
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah. It said correct. And looks like the big blind folded. It gave us another hand. It was bet 2/3, about 55%, and
Yeah. It definitely likes the 2/3
1/4,
bet
about
more.
37. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. But it's pretty fine with the small bet too. So again, this is the one where you think
So
about
what is
exploitation.
actually, Keith, what is kings in that scenario? If you go back to the history, because I can see doing the smaller bet more often when you have other
Yeah.
holdings. Like
Yeah, this-
with kings could be a smaller bet because of the power of the hand, right?
Well, this is talking about kings here. So
It's not just
these are frequencies
range.
again.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, that's just for kings. Okay.
Yes, that was just for kings.
Okay. I get it. Yeah. So it's not talking about your range when it gives you the answers. It's just talking about your specific hand.
Look at this
Yep,
though.
looks
It's
like it.
56 and 34. Because if I click on kings, it's
betting
heavier.
big with
Yeah,
kings.
it's heavier in favor of the big ones.
But with your entire range, you should be betting small.
Yeah. It's just the kings are the exception. It's because of the nut, because it's not only I mean we already have the nut advantage, but we've also got a holding that supports it. So
You have the range advantage as well, right?
yep.
Rob, I want to come over to your house.
Yeah, there's hobbits running around behind me and through that
I
window.
know, it's great. It's great.
All right.
Arizona is a magical land, let me tell you.
So here we got second pair, second kicker, no back door, and we're not blocking a flush draw.
This is a big bet.
41, definitely a 41. When I'm talking range.
Okay.
You know, I'm not talking the specific hand, because I think if I open from under the gun and get called by the big blind, I'm making a big bet no matter what two cards I hold right here.
What are you betting with this specific hand?
Same. I want it to be consistent. I don't want my bet size to change based on my hand because a thinking opponent could see, well, when he bets big, that means he has something. When he bets small, he doesn't.
Yeah.
So I could be sitting here with pocket nines and I'd still bet big.
Yep. That flop is a very high card flop. That's a Broadway flop. That's a big bet flop, ain't it? I mean, we've
Yes.
even got a gut shot to the nuts straight.
And a straight blocker.
Yep. So let's go big and see what it does. It gave me the ding, meaning correct. And the frequencies, I'm going to go to the history.
It looked like 97%.
Yeah, it's all big. All big here. Just because of the nature of that flop. It's a Broadway flop.
And just as Rob said, it's with the entire range.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the computer said too. Okay. Here's a thing that happened to me at the MSPT main event all day. We've got a low connected flop with our ace king suited.
It's a pure
So-
check.
I'm checking this.
Yep.
You checking it to call? Are you check folding or check calling?
It's just
I'm
the
check
nature
calling.
check calling. This is the nature of the board. You're six on
Yeah.
six on under, so pretty much a range check.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to say that you should check it most often, but if you are going to bet, you're going to bet small.
Yeah.
So let's check. It dinged. And it looks like the big, we check back and now the big blind is betting into us as this board starts to straighten out a little bit.
Looks like it said if we're going to bet, we should bet big. We should
Yeah.
bet the
But
41.
a small bet's not wrong.
Yeah.
No, at equilibrium, right? But
But it was strongly
Yeah, I
in favor of a check. So
yeah,
we'd only I suppose the small bet is giving the big blind too good of a price for a flop that hit his range real hard for his draws. So that's why we go bigger to charge him to miss his draws. But still, it strongly favors a check. Well,
yeah. And I think another thing is if you bet small, it's easier for him to check raise than if you bet big.
yeah,
Because then he has to put in that much more money to do a check raise against you.
Yep.
So maybe we're trying to offset the times that he's going to check raise, but I would check that every time.
There's players that will always check raise this flop from the big blind, no matter what their holding is,
Right.
right? Because
Yep.
they just know that it hits them better.
Well, yeah, being in the EP, you're what, eights, sevens, and lower you don't have, right? So
Oh, we have some, but not a lot.
not enough, right, to be able to bet. So
Yeah.
And
So
I fold
I
here.
fold here. I fold
I
here.
I do
fold
too.
all day long.
yep. He either connected or he's got a pretty good draw, or
Or he's got Queen Jack and he's just representing.
yeah, he could
doesn't
be
matter.
representing.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, we need to get out of here.
If it was me, I'd be representing, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have any two cards there.
So we'll fold and see if we get a ding.
the solver's
or
probably
a
going to want
buzzer.
to call one there, but that's the solver.
Well, it called us correct for folding. So folding was 15%. The call was actually just strongly favored a call.
Yeah, that's because we didn't call at all, right? That was because we haven't
Yeah.
put any money in Postflop.
Right.
Really likes the call with the ace kings.
It's gonna
Yeah.
call your aces down, right? It loves calling aces down. But yeah, I would fold here too. It's too marginal for
Yeah.
our stakes.
If you are against a pro in the big blind, then maybe you call.
Yeah. Because
Like
your ace.
if you know somebody that knows that this is their board and they're
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're against Davidi Katai, you would definitely call.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah,
watching Inside the Mind of a Pro lately, and
Yeah.
yeah, he really takes advantage.
Okay. This is this is a big blind flop all day long. We haven't done anything here.
But if you're Jim, you're going to bet this 100% of the time.
you bet it
Yeah.
small. I bet
Yeah,
this all the time too. I bet this
It's
small.
solver bets
'Cause
small all the time.
Yep.
They're not-
It's
They're not
always-
going to call unless they have a spade in their hand or they've hit this board specifically.
Yeah, you could bet small, and if get check raised, you could easily fold.
Yeah.
Let's give that a try. It said that's correct. The small bet's correct.
Is it most correct though? Yes. Look at that.
Yeah.
92%.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know those boards, those
Uh-huh.
flush boards.
If
They
all of us,
called.
if all of us 5 could play together in a tournament, we'd be doing pretty well. I don't mean against each other. I mean the same hand.
Yeah. All right. So we checked, the big blind called, and now we get this hand or this card here.
Interesting. I think
And
we can bet again.
Yeah. But what does that say about our story?
You bet small. I think you'd have to bet the bigger size, right? 61 or pot, right? You want to charge them now.
Yeah. Yeah, and
And
our
if our
small
story-
bet was just out of general principles, not necessarily a story. What the story that we told was we got a high card hand,
Or we had a spade,
or we had a spade.
which we can
Or
still
we had
have
the ace
clearly.
queen of spades.
Yeah,
Oh, we had ace queen with the ace of spades.
yeah.
There you go.
So what size do we want to go here? Big?
I
I think on the turn, I like a bigger bet size.
wish I had more to choose from, more sizes, but I
Yeah.
guess with those only, I'd bet the 61 here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
the
think-
2/3.
2/3.
It liked it. And it looks like the big blind folded because it's sending us off to another hand. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change our scenario up because we've been
Hang
early
on.
positioned.
Let's just look at this
Okay.
percentages. 61, yeah, 77% of the time. I wanted that bet.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, so I'm going to go to
Go to cutoff and button.
Yeah. Okay, 40 big blind, single raise pot, button versus cutoff. And we're gonna switch. We're out of position. So, okay. So here we go. We've got ace and 5 of hearts. We've got a
Eight.
backdoor nut flush draw. And
This is
we
a heavy
paired-
check board, right?
Yep.
Doesn't have a 10 or higher on it.
Yep. Actually, cutoff against button is a heavy check position.
Mhm.
Remember, it was like 70% for the whole range.
Yeah, I think my bucket here is check call.
Mhm.
How about a check raise? Because we have the backdoor nut flush draw.
I don't think we have enough value there to be able to
Yeah,
check raise.
no, I wouldn't do a check raise there. If there was
Okay.
2 hearts on the board, I probably would.
If
But
you had
And,
an
and
ace
if the
eight,
board wasn't paired too.
yeah,
if you had an ace 8, you might be able to, right?
Yeah.
right.
It likes check raising with an ace and any paired card.
All right. So now the button bet. He bet
Okay.
18.
We were supposed to bet. We were supposed to bet 48.
Yeah.
No, we were supposed to bet. Yeah. 86% of the time we're supposed to bet
I would
big.
check the history because I think with
That's what it says with ace 5.
yeah, it's for the range part of it, but it seems betting big.
Yeah. All right. But the call was unexploitable. So, or the check, I'm sorry, was unexploitable. So now the button has bet into us on the small side. What do we want to do? We talked about check calling, right? To see what develops.
Our ace high would be good here anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm seeing one more card for this price.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And now we paired up our 5. I don't know, that might matter on this paired board.
so we're just
Oh, yeah,
gonna we're in check call mode, I think, for the most part here, depending on size.
Okay.
Yeah, we were either ahead or behind anyway.
Okay. Check is correct. And now he bet on the bigger side.
72? Yeah.
72 to make it 179.
Yeah.
So are we going to call that bigger bet?
I am, and this is where I lose a lot of money.
Yeah, I think I just fold here.
Yeah, I fold too.
Yeah, our 5 isn't good enough even on the paired board.
Yeah.
There,
What's he thinking we're calling with, and what's he barreling with here?
I
Yeah.
mean, solver probably calls here, but I'm not.
It's the only, if he had, I don't know, what does he have there? 10,
Yep.
10 jack, didn't get there yet, but that's about it.
Yeah, based on the population of players that we play, most of them are checking here unless they actually have something. So
I mean, 10 jack of specifically spades might bet big like this. I would if I had 10 jack of spades.
Yeah. Combo draw. Okay, so we're folding.
Yeah, I would.
Nope, it buzzed us.
Yeah, solver always likes calling third pair.
Yep, solver calls 100% of the time.
Never
still gonna
raises.
lose money.
Just call.
Yeah.
John knows from experience.
All right. So we got
Thanks,
one
guys.
wrong,
I got to
so-
go grab some kids. So
Okay. Thanks
Take
for
care.
coming.
see you, Arnold.
Have a good one. All right.
These are tough.
Yeah. Third pair.
I never do this, and I have a lifetime subscription to Range Trainer Pro. But I feel like I do just get lost inside it.
Yeah. Yeah, because the stuff is very, very it
Especially
gets
when I go
deep.
back to try and figure out why they're saying what they're saying.
Yeah. You can go down a rabbit. There's a
And
lot
do
of
they-
rabbit holes there.
And they're not giving a lot of choices here. They're only giving
Mhm.
25%, 67%, and then
Yeah.
pot. They're only giving 3 choices. Right? And we know there's a lot more choices than that out there.
Yep.
There's the old one big blind.
Yeah.
There's the old 2 times pot.
Yeah. There's the old jam.
There's old 50% pot, half pot bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm when it comes to solvers. It's interesting to look at, but you can't be very exact with it
No.
when you're
You just have
looking at
to-
things like Range Trainer Pro or GTO Wizard, because those are all pre-solved, right? Based on specific ranges and specific bet sizes.
Yeah. Any solvers like that though.
Well, no, if you do your own solve,
Yeah,
you
but
can
you
put
still
as
have
much.
to put in the sizes that
Correct.
they're
But
not-
you can put in 5 or 6 different sizes
you can
and get
but
a much
that's
close.
yeah,
If you have all afternoon.
yeah.
Yeah, if your computer will handle it.
Odin uses that multiple sizing in
Oh.
their calculations. They use 7 or 8 different sizings,
Does it calculate it, or are they pre-calculated like that?
pre-calculated.
Okay.
So
I think I'm checking here. What do you guys say? Third pair?
Queen 10 6. No, I'm betting this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm typically checking, but I think it's wrong.
I'm
I just-
checking just because it's a middle hand type of thing. I connected with the board, but loosely.
Yeah, but there are 2 broadways out there, and we're typically supposed to bet a little bit. Supposed to bet 2 broadways.
Not as much in the cutoff versus button, but
Yeah.
yeah. I'd be betting here. I'd be betting 48,
All right, let's give that a try.
but it's probably wrong.
It liked it. It says bet pot a little bit, bet 48 a little bit,
Check most of the time.
check
just like it
most of the
wants
time.
to.
Just
Yeah.
like on that chart that we saw at the beginning of this session, when we're cut off against button, we're checking like 3/4 of the time.
What do we have now? We have an open-ended straight draw and bottom pair.
Yeah. Yeah, this actually improved our equity here.
I'm still checking.
Well, you can't still check because we just bet.
Yeah.
So we could check now, or we bet now.
If we check, we're gonna have to call because a lot of people are gonna bet that king to try to scare you away.
Yeah, they're all going to bet. They're going to bet all their queens, 10s,
Yeah.
flush draws, straight draws.
Yep. And even
We're
if they
blocking the
got
straight, though.
junk,
We're
yeah.
blocking the straights. So I don't know. Maybe we bet again. Maybe it wants us to bet again.
If I bet to go to start with this, now that I have the open-ended straight draw,
You bet
and
again.
I'd bet again. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
the 112.
Yeah, the 66% pot.
Yeah, that's the
Whatever that
112
is.
here. Yeah.
Okay.
It liked it.
For our 2% of the time we're supposed to do it.
It says 20% of the time.
Well, that's not too bad.
Yep.
Like
Never
the small
bet.
bet, though.
Yeah, it
Never
didn't like
check.
checking. Never check.
Yeah, see, John, never check when you've made the mistake of betting and your equity increases.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, the majority of the time we were gonna bet small on that turn. And so now
And then
That must be because we're out of position, because normally you bet bigger on the turn after continuation betting on the flop.
Yeah, must be because it's out of position. Yeah.
Yep.
So now what is it?
Yeah,
want
that's
us to
true.
do? Now we bet.
That's true.
Block or bet.
Everything goes down, right?
Yeah.
When you're out of position. So your bet sizes go down, your range gets tighter.
This is where I bet 39. 10% of pot. Block bet.
Yep. Flush draw just got there.
Yeah. What are they calling with on the flop? So let's range them for what they're calling with. Like, I don't know.
They were
If we're trying to make a queen or a 10 fold, then we have to bet a bit bigger. Right? And if we're trying to, what are we trying to get called by when we bet small? Like that we're beating just ace high
yeah.
is the only hand that we're beating.
Yep. I think if we're betting here, we're turning our pair of sixes into a bluff.
yeah, I don't think you're ever getting called by a worse hand.
No.
Right.
Well, if you bet small, we're trying to get called by ace high here.
Yep.
Right?
Pretty
Yeah, I'm
much.
not even sure that many ace highs are going
But
to
if
call.
we're thinking about what we're trying to make fold here, what can we make fold with our bet? Can we make, I mean, 10s aren't going to be very comfortable. Like,
Yeah, we could get a 10-9 to fold.
yeah, even yeah, even ace 10 might fold here with no spades.
Yeah.
What about a queen? Are we telling a consistent story if we're trying to get a queen to fold?
We're not going to get a queen to fold.
No.
Well, it depends. A queen I might fold a queen here if the 216 bet came in when we've shown bet. We're triple barreling this.
Yeah, I think you'd have to bet big here if you're going to bet. I
Yep.
think I either check or bet big because you can include a lot more bluffs in your range when you're betting bigger, right?
Yeah. Now we're just turning our 6 into a bluff.
Right, because
Yeah.
that's either we're checking to hope to get to a cheap showdown, or we're trying to bet them off a better hand.
I may very well be wrong here, but don't you want to have less bluffs with a big bet?
No, more
No,
bluff.
More.
You can bluff more with a big bet because it costs him more.
It costs
to,
them more to call, so they're not going
right.
to call
Okay.
as often.
Okay, I got it.
Right.
I got it. I
So
was
when
thinking
you
of the
make a
opposite.
small
When you-
bet, when you make a small bet, they're going to call more often. So you have to have more value.
I was thinking of it in reverse. If you get called, you're going to lose more. But the
Well,
point
that's
is, you're
true.
going to get called a lot less.
Yes.
Yep. And you're teaching them to sometimes call when you make that big bet, because then you're going to get paid when
Yep.
you do have the hand.
What are we doing? This is my last hand. I got to go. Come
Yeah,
on. Can't wait to find out.
We're already on overtime anyway, so my inclination
Go
here
for
would be either check or bet big. Let's go for it.
This is where they bet 1.5 times the pot. And I don't know what to do with my queen.
It gave us the ding of approval on the big bet. And
98%.
Yeah.
98%.
We're
Nailed
checking
it.
0.
Yeah. So it wasn't even
There
a
we go.
debate.
So we did turn our 6s into a bluff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they weren't beating anything anyway.
Yep.
I wonder if the
They
last
weren't
card.
beating any made hands.
I wonder if the last card was not a spade, whether it would have bet or not.
That's a good
Because in
question.
theory, one of the things we were clearly representing was a flush.
Well, the other thing too is we can sometimes check call when we have our 6s can be a bluff catcher then versus all their missed spade draws
Mhm.
and missed. They don't have a lot of missed straight draws because we have the jack, but yeah. Okay, thanks, Keith.
Yep. Thank you guys. I'm gonna call it.
Okay.
So thanks for coming.
Great. This has been
Yeah.
fun. I'll try and come
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do this format more often than the advanced poker training, although we'll still use advanced poker
So
training.
you don't use the Zoom at all because we would see your screen better on a screen share on Zoom.
Free Zoom is only like 40
No,
minutes.
yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah, but
You-
Jim
Jim
will let
share
you
it.
use
Jim will
let you use the
the
Breck
Breck poker
Poker.
one. Yeah, he's
I'll
already
ask him
he's
about it.
offered. He offered it to me to use, so told me
Okay.
not to renew my Zoom next
yeah,
year.
anybody on the wrecking crew can use it.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
It's just we would see that. I know in Zoom you can share a screen, so we can see it a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, I'm not liking this so much. It's a little clunky. I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.